Welcome to the 98% Life After Prison, a podcast dedicated to all the incarcerated people in North Carolina who will eventually be released back into our communities. I'm Judy Van Wyk, and today's episode is part 2 of our series, Arise for Women. In part 1, Kim Stone introduced us to Arise Collective, a remarkable nonprofit in Raleigh that takes a holistic approach to helping women rebuild their lives after prison. Today, we're going to hear from 2 women taking part in the Arise program. It may surprise you to know that the number of women incarcerated in North Carolina has ballooned in recent years, rising by close to 20% between 2009 and 2018. Meanwhile, the number of men incarcerated during that time rose by just 1%. Why, you may ask? Tougher drug sentencing and a serious lack of mental health services are leading causes. 90% of Arise's clientele are struggling with substance use disorder. Wendy Dickerson was 47 years old and the mother of a teenage daughter when she got tangled up in the carceral system. She spent 2 years behind bars and lost everything. Here's her story. Give me a sentence or two to describe who you are.
Wendy Dickerson. I'm a mom of 2 children, 2 beautiful children, 1 grandson. I am a grandmother, and I just recently served 2 years incarceration.
Can you tell me what got you to prison?
Yes, ma'am. I had a drinking problem through several traumas through life. I suffered from alcoholism that culminated in my 4th DWI, and I was sentenced to 2 years active time.
Can you talk about what started you drinking and what kind of brought on the addiction to begin with?
So, I wasn't always great with accepting life on life's terms, I feel like. And I've learned that through the program of AA, which I work, diligently now. It was just a coping mechanism that I had learned from my youth. I had never been one to use prescription medication. The prescription medication that I used usually gave me horrible side effects, such as depression medications, any anti-anxiety medications that I had tried in the past just didn't work for me. Whereas if I drank, it made me more outgoing. It was fun until it wasn't fun anymore. My second husband was abusive and also got me addicted to opiates. So the two just went hand in hand in the circles that I was in during that period of my life.
Had you been in therapy or done anything like that before?
Oh, no, ma'am. Where I'm from, we don't do therapy. We're from the country. I had 2 kids. I didn't have time to sit around and talk about my feelings. You understand? I found a method that worked. Although not healthy, it worked. I thought that I was managing. The DWIs didn't come overnight. It seems there towards the end that they did, but they were actually spread out over years.
What kind of a pattern did your alcoholism take?
So I'm what you call a binge drinker. I would be fine for periods of time. I wasn't drunk when I took care of my children. I would drink when I could. So when the babies are asleep, when the children are in the bed, I would have a couple of drinks to help me sleep. On the weekends at gatherings, I would have a couple of drinks socially, right? But towards the end of my alcoholism, when I said that it was fun until it wasn't fun anymore, that's the God's honest truth. I honestly woke up one day and noticed a shake and was almost taken aback. And I was like, well, this can't be good. I've always had really bad anxiety, and the anxiety ramped up with the alcohol. Of course, I was thinking alcohol was medicinal, and in fact, alcohol caused further stressors to my anxiety, to my mental health, just not being very capable of problem solving, which I typically pride myself on. Not being insured at the time. I was a stay-at-home mother, and insurance, that just wasn't an option. I was actually hospitalized several times for my alcohol addiction. So yeah, there's not a lot of help out here for women. I had looked for somewhere when I had what I'd term a nervous breakdown, and I was drinking to try to cope with life. And nowhere. There's nowhere, or was nowhere at the time. So in 2018 until now, there's no mental health support for those that are not insured. Not to mention, 9 times out of 10, when I would try to go to detox, my blood alcohol level would be in such a dangerous range that they immediately would send me to the emergency room, and I would have to be hospitalized. I did suffer from very severe seizures. The day I was arrested, I actually had 4 seizures, and those typically resulted in bad falls. So the physical withdrawal from alcohol is probably the worst withdrawal I've ever come through. I've also beaten an opiate addiction. As I said, when I left my second husband, I knew I had a problem with pain medication. But again, we would physically fight, and he had a prescription. And so it was nothing for him to just say, "Here, honey," it was kind of a makeup kind of thing. "Geez, I didn't mean to hurt you. Here, if you take this, you'll feel better."
Can you tell me about prison? What was it like to go to prison?
So initially, I was sentenced to misdemeanor confinement, which is county jail. So the first 8 months of my sentence I did in a county jail. The first 5 months of my sentence I did in my home county. I thought I was being shipped to prison. I was actually shipped to a county jail 4 hours from home, down by the coast, Elizabeth City. I knew no one there. There is no way for you to support yourself there. In that particular county jail, you are required to provide all the way to your undergarments. They don't provide you with any undergarments whatsoever. No brassiere, no underwear. You get a jumpsuit, and that's it. So that was rough. I was shipped in January of 24 to NCCIW here in Raleigh. By March of 24, I was assigned to the North Carolina DMV tag plant, the only tag plant in the state of North Carolina, and worked there for the duration of my sentence. So I was there from March till May of 25. There I was able to work a steady job. You're treated like a human being much more, you see, because you work. So you get up and you do the same thing people in the free world do. You go to work every day. You have a schedule. A schedule helps with time. When you have time to serve, a schedule keeps things moving. It keeps you busy, where you're not involved in the antics, we'll say the shenanigans that other inmates find themselves involved in. I also was able to remain clean for my 2-year sentence, which I pride myself on now. I actually have 2 years, and next Monday will be 4 months sobriety. First time in a long time that I've been sober this long by choice. I found in prison these women that I did time with. There were so many very, very special women that had made a terrible mistake, right? And it woke me up to the fact there are good people in prison. There are good people that have made bad decisions. It's one bad decision that we're all one bad decision away from going and serving time.
What would you say the most important thing that you learned in prison was?
Humility. Always, always humbled. I was humbled to my core to know, as I said, I guess from childhood, I was raised to believe that prison was just this violent, terrible, oh my goodness, what's going to happen to me? It's not that at all. Honestly, just the small amount of time that I was there, I had my own little family unit. These women look out for one another. And it's the sadness that we're all away from our children, those of us who have them, we're all away from our families. We're all doing time, right? And there are really good people there. As I said, I built relationships that I will have for the rest of my life. Number 2, I'm sober. I don't think that I could have gotten sober in the streets. I think that was part of God's mission, was to give me a little more time to heal, to get the foundation built that I'm standing on today, to develop my faith. Because believe you me, when you have nobody to call on but the Lord, He answers differently.
Can we talk about your children? How old were your children when you went inside? And what was it like for them, for their mom to go to prison?
So my son was 28, pretty well done. My son's also done time. So wasn't as big a culture shock for him as it was my daughter. My daughter was actually temporarily placed with her father, who, as I stated, had been abusive, who ended being abusive with my daughter. She ended up in foster care. My daughter just January of this year, so she spent about 1.5 years in foster care. Very rough on her. She's never been without me. We have both come back to each other with a new appreciation of needing each other desperately, right? Through my addictions, my daughter would at times, she had a hard time understanding. She's like, I don't understand why you're an alcoholic. Her dad also had a drinking problem. So she said, I don't think you'll ever know how it feels to have 2 alcoholics as parents. And I remember how sharp a blade that was that went in at the time, but I couldn't be mad at her. She was just genuinely sharing with me. She struggled. She was 14 when I went away. And she, I think, wanted to help me, but you couldn't fathom how dark some days were. I would be great for a while. As I said, I was a binge drinker. I would be great for a while. And then when I nosedive, I would be down for a couple of weeks, possibly not even leaving my room. She's 17 today. She works full time. She's going to school full time. She knows the struggle is real. She stays away from substances because she's seen what it's done to her family.
Describe your reentry. How did you get hooked up with Arise, and how did you find housing and all of that good stuff that's really difficult to do after prison?
It definitely is, but let me say first, Arise has been incredible. Arise has basically been holding my hand through the whole process. So Arise provided me my home, beautiful home, bedding, everything. Arise has coddled me from the day I came home. They have literally taken me broken, fresh out of prison, to the woman that I am today. It's so funny, and I mention this because it's so important. I literally thought I didn't need everything that Arise was providing me. And so I was thinking I was going to go to an Oxford house. And all the way up to the day before I left, I was thinking, I don't want somebody with their thumb on my head anymore. I've been following the rules for 2 years. I'm a grown up. I can do this, so on and so forth. I prayed on it. And, God put certain obstacles in my way to direct me this way. And now that I've gone through this process, I don't know where I would be without Arise, without the staff here that have supported me so often through my struggles, because there were struggles. There were really bad days. I've had a couple of jobs that didn't pan out because of my record. And, you get your hopes up and only to be dashed. And it's a lot of emotions that you're going through. And these ladies here at Arise, they've done time. And so they knew all of that.
What do you see for the future?
My future is so bright. I should be wearing sunglasses, right? I'm going to continue to foster relationships with those I can minister to in my small way. I'm going to continue to share the good news that is life on life's terms is doable. It ain't always pretty, but with my faith and with the grace that God gives me, I hope that I can lend a hand to one, if not many more, and let people know there are those of us who care. There are those of us who have walked in your shoes.
While she was in prison, Wendy became certified as a forklift operator and was about to start a new job when I last spoke to her. Her daughter is living with Wendy's older sister while she remains in Wake County to take advantage of the employment opportunities as well as the important resources that Arise has to offer. She's also working on getting her blue card so that she can lead AA meetings inside prison. I just have to say this. It can be hard to hear about the ravages of addiction. But what continues to amaze me about the women I've met at Arise is their courage. Not only the courage that it takes to publicly share their darkest moments, but the courage and resilience it takes to create a new life in sobriety. With that said, let's meet our next Arise woman working to rebuild her life. Melissa Graves, better known as Missy, grew up in Mississippi. After becoming addicted to heroin, she came to North Carolina with hopes of getting clean, but instead ended up in prison. But before diving into her story, I need to clarify something. During the interview, Missy talks about a Stephanie Treadway. Treadway served as executive director of the nonprofit Redirection North Carolina. As such, she ran a transition house for women, where Missy stayed after being released from prison. Redirection was later taken over by Arise Collective. Let's listen to Missy Graves tell her story.
My name is Melissa Graves. Everybody call me Missy. A little bit about myself. I have 2 beautiful kids. I have a grandson. I have a beautiful family that have been supporting me since before prison. They've always supported me. I'm just a person just trying to just give back, trying to help somebody, trying to just, I don't know, be that lifesaver for somebody,
What ended you up in prison? Can you talk about that?
Of course. So I was addicted to heroin and getting in relationships, and I caught an assault charge that I couldn't. I had a couple of larceny charges. And what really landed me into prison was my assault, for one. I knew I was going to have to do some time behind it. And my ex-girlfriend, I knew I was going to have to do some time. And then in North Carolina, they have something that's called habitual. And I was with a guy, and he was out boosting. And we got put over, and he asked me to take the charge for him. And I knew I had the assault, but that was all I had at that time, was the assault. And he was like, I'm a habitual, take the charge, I got you. And for some reason, I believed him. And I took the charge for him and ended up getting on probation. And my mom sacrificed again, got me a good lawyer. And I got on probation, and then I got back into the lifestyle, the partying. And for me, it wasn't just like drugs. I was addicted to sex. I had a sex addiction. It just came along. Everything was like couldn't have one without the other. You know, I was just like I thought I was probably worse than a man. Like, just like a man would be with a woman. Like, you know, if we getting high, I would go get women's to pray, let's go party. It was just my lifestyle at the time, you know. And I think the sex addiction was just as worse as the drug addiction, because I had to have it. I could be in Walmart and meet a lady in Walmart and tell her to go to the bathroom. I'd be right there. I just had a lifestyle of addiction, and my mom was my enabler. So I didn't have to like do a lot of things that people had to do. I never heard of panhandling until I moved to North Carolina. Never. So I started not going to my PO, missing payments. He calling me, and I'm making up every excuse in the world. And I started absconding. And I ran for, well, actually, I think that's what got me landed me in prison. The judge was, when I went to court, when they caught me, he said, well, how long did you run? I said, I never ran. You just never caught me. Like, I wasn't running. You just never caught me. But it took them almost 2 years. A month before, me and my brother had started planning, you know, how I was going to do my life right before I got out of prison. And a month before I got out of prison, they called me to, one of the sergeants came and got me and took me up front, and they found my brother dead in his apartment. And he was the only reason I came here. I don't have family here. So a month before I got out, he had took my boxes and stuff to, her name was Stephanie Trailway. And we was going to get the rest of the stuff when he picked me up. And they found him dead in his apartment. And I don't think it hit me until the day they opened the gates and he wasn't there. And I remember I just went to the ground, and Stephanie's driveway came and got me. And I know this might not make sense, but I was angry with my brother that he left me, and you knew you was all I had here. And you left me. You didn't. I know it might sound crazy, but like you didn't want. And I talked to him. I talked to him on a Monday. And they found him dead that Wednesday. He wasn't sick. He wasn't, I don't know. And I don't have nobody here. Nobody. No cousin, nothing. He was the only reason I came here, to change my people, places, and things. And then I learned from that, I don't care where you go. You can go to the desert. If you're not ready to change here, it's not going to do no good. Because, I just left Mississippi, came to North Carolina, and started doing the same thing that I was doing down there. I was just in a place where nobody knew me. And my life just, when I got out of prison in 20, I was determined that I would not go back. Like, I had to do something different. Prison for me was hard. It was hard. It was hard for me. My mom had 3 boys. Then she had me. Her and my dad decided to try one more time. But I was raised like an only child because me and my baby brother are 16 years apart. Oh. So I was raised, she was my enabler. I didn't have to panhandle. I didn't have to steal. And I know this might sound crazy, but I thank God for prison. I thank God for NCCIW. Because it showed, like, if I wouldn't have never went to prison, I wouldn't have never knew that that's a place I never want to go back to because I never been. Where you can't, they tell you when to get up, when to go to sleep, when you can eat, when you can shower, when you can. I don't want to go back to that place, And I went in the heat of the summer. And that, everybody know NCCIW don't have air conditioning.
How did you not just fall back and start depending on drugs again?
I think my brother death is what keeps me clean to this day. I knew how bad he wanted me to stay clean, but I couldn't. It's not that I didn't want to stay, I couldn't. Some people, the way I look at it, people, what about your family? What about your kids? All you're doing is you know what? That was my family. Every time I took a hit, that was my kids. But my brother's death is what keep me clean, and being in my kids' life it means more to me now. I think about my worth. That is a main thing that keeps me clean too, my worth. A lot of women, we go to prison and we forget what we are worth, how valuable we are.
You're welcome to talk about this or not, but do you know what it was that set you on that path with drugs and sex addiction?
It was a lot. One I just rather not talk about, but I was married. I had the perfect life at the age of 20, and I loved my husband to the point that if he needed a heart, I'd have told the doctor to give him mine. And we got married July the 4th, 1998. And August the 8th of 1998, I caught him in bed with a man. And he left me for that man.
And you had invested so much in that life.
So at a young age, I was married with a child by the time I was 21. But I was happy. But I don't think I was what he wanted. Like he said, you were who I wanted. You just wasn't what I wanted. So that's what he told me. And after that, I started drinking and I got myself together from that. And then I met one of the mothers from my mom's church. I would go to her for advice. I would just somebody I could talk to that wasn't my mom. And one night I was there with her. Her husband worked offshore, and she was a missionary, good Christian lady. And she turned me out that night. Church lady. And the thing about it, she made love to me like nobody had ever made love to me before. And I started doing Percocets. You know, like, as long as I was high, I'd tell myself it wasn't true. You know, like, sleeping with a woman, that's not me. And every time she called, I would run like a bat out of you know what, trying to get to her because I liked the way she made me feel. And I just covered it up. I covered it up. You know, I numbed the pain. Instead of me talking to somebody, getting me a counselor, a therapist or something, I felt like I could heal the pain. And I knew I couldn't. It was just, you know, then it came to a point where pills wasn't enough.
It sounds like you have a very loving family. Tell me about your children.
So my daughter now is 27. My son now is 11. My grandson now is 5. Yeah. So my family is a loving, supportive of me. And my daughter knows that I'm part of the LGBT, you know, in the community. They accept me. They don't judge me. And I like that about my family. So, my family, man, I could have hit the $1 billion Powerball and gave it all to my mom. And to me, it just wasn't enough for what she did for me. You know, raising a son that's not hers at her age, 75, taking a little boy to football practice. My mom like, what? But she's so supportive. If this is what it's going to take for you to stay clean, I'll do it.
So you got out. What was your plan when you got out?
I didn't have one. So my plan was my first plan was to stay clean no matter what. At the end of the day, I was going to, like, if I needed a hotel room, I knew my mom would get it. She probably wouldn't send me the money no more. But I knew she would get it to make sure I had shelter on my head. So that was my plan. Give me a good job, work, give me an apartment, live. But I didn't know my brother was going to pass away. When Arise took over, a lot of the people that were with Stephanie Trailway, they left. And I remember it like it was yesterday. Kim Stone, she said, hey, you come here. And she said, just stay. I said, I'm leaving. Everybody else gone, I'm leaving too. She said, just give us a try. And you ought to see my certificates and diplomas and all of that I've gotten through Arise. I ain't paid $1.
So what is it that makes Arise so special?
Staff. You got some people that get up every morning and go to work because you know why? It's a job. It pays the bills. It keeps food on the table. It keeps me some new shoes. But it's with Arise, it's none of that. Like, who give you a cell phone when you get out of prison? That's the first thing they do. Hand the girl, here go your cell phone. This your number. Take it to Walmart. Get your new clothes and shoes and stuff. No hand-me-downs. Who gonna do that?
It sounds like they make you feel important.
They do. They do. They make you feel, I guess, like if you're at home, you just like, come on in. You know, I feel like you do that because you either know the person, you care about the person, And a rise is the same thing. They might not know you, but they care.
Since being with Arise, Missy has taken full advantage of the educational opportunities they have to offer. She recently completed her associate's degree and is attending Campbell University's online program in behavioral science. She's going for her bachelor's degree, and she says she wants to work with children, or perhaps with people who are mentally disabled. Well, that's our show for today. Join us next time for the final installment of our series, Arise for Women. In the meantime, check us out on Facebook and Instagram, or go to our website to listen to past episodes. That address is www.the98-lifeafterprisonpodcast.com. www.the98-lifeafterprisonpodcast.com. Thanks for listening, and until next time, this is the 98% Life After Prison.